So we're going to start with some transfer news, Lockie, because there's been some big stuff involving some big named Australian players. Principal among those, of course, Nestory Irankunda. He's been in a bit of flux at them, like recently. Nobody's quite sure what's going to happen with him. Was he going to go back to Grasshopper again? Did Bayern want him? You know, there was a potentially come back to Adelaide with all those cryptic things he posted to his Instagram story. It seems now, though, that it's all settled, it's all done. He's headed to Watford, Lockie, which very solid club for him to be heading to, and it's another Aussie playing in the Championship next season.
Yeah, do you know what the broadcast situation for the Championship is? Because I feel like I'm really going to have to get on some games this year.
I think it's on BN Sports, which is then, yeah. So
anyway, look, it's really cool, and you're right. This is a big move, and I think one of the most fascinating things is the structure of the deal. I've heard so many. Obviously, I don't think it's been officially confirmed by the club, but he's a big profile player. You know, you're getting the Fabrizio treatment on the Twitter feed. There's a lot of talk going around, and I'm sure when a lot of people saw the news, they're thinking, "Oh, Irankunda is another Aussie just to go over to a big name club, and he's failed, and he's kind of gone backwards to Watford." That's not how this reads at all to me, at least. There is, in some form, a buyback clause for Bayern Munich. There is also a sell-on clause. My understanding is that Watford can, at points of time, also buy back portions of that buyback clause, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like they can buy more equity in the player's contract. I don't know. It's all very confusing, but basically Bayern are retaining rights to get him back if he really kicks on. And I think that's a really important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nestory talked in his little stand up at the airport, the fact that it's a World Cup year and he needs to be playing, which is 100% correct. And it's the theme of a lot of the transfers that we see in this window before a World Cup, about 12 months away. It's a very crucial thing. Obviously, Bayern have that plan for him. And, you know, is this too different to a loan move? Yeah, okay, it's a little bit more towards he is a Watford player, but Bayern still have the opportunity to recall him. I think, I don't know, do they get to match a bid if Watford accepts something like that? I'm not sure, but he's going to the Championship where he should get minutes. I've seen some quotes for some Watford people saying that on paper he's a starter and potentially even a bit of a marquee signing. So another Aussie in the Championship, I think it's a really good move for him. He just needs football in the legs, right? And
that's right.
Hopefully, you know, getting those minutes in with some other Aussies around in the Championship as well is going to make that league quite entertaining to follow for us.
For sure. And I mean, we've seen this proliferation of Australian players heading over to that sort of level and performing well, and it seems to have done, you know, wonders not just for them but for Australian players as a whole, and the stock has risen in terms of the value of these players, and Nesta's the most recent to benefit. I think the other thing that's going to benefit as well is not just the minutes in the legs, but with it being, you know, a permanent move with that buyback option attached to it, is he doesn't have to feel like he's always on the chopping block, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It gives him that little bit of security. Obviously, it is a World Cup year, so he does want to be getting those minutes and pushing really hard and you know, doing the best that he can, but he can also kind of relax a little bit. And this is something he also wasn't really necessarily afforded in his days at Adelaide, because he had the weight of expectation on his shoulders of, you know, being the next big thing, and he had to perform and, you know, all this sort of stuff. So it feels like for almost sort of the first time in his career, he's going to get a chance to actually settle into his role, and really show what he's made of. And yeah, everybody that I've seen from the Watford side of things seems to be really, really, really happy with this signing. And I mean, you just have to just watch him play, and you can see why, you know, fans are so excited for this. And it's the thing as well of, you know, he is, in my opinion, the most exciting, like, kind of up-and-coming future Socceroo. Like, he's the sort of player, he can just change a game completely when he comes on the pitch. So, you know, the fact that hopefully he'll be getting these minutes in a World Cup year. I mean, Popovic did kind of briefly touch on it. He was asked about the move, and he said hopefully this move will help him develop further. Whether that's an immediate impact or not, it gives him a better chance, of course, and that's it. Naturally about his selection to the World Cup. So, you know, it seems like Popovic is definitely around it, and perhaps that's one of the reasons why we didn't see Irankunda in and around the Socceroo squad in the last few windows, is because he wasn't necessarily getting high quality game time, and Popovic clearly values that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. And I think a lot of people will also see the Championship and go, oh, you know, it's second tier, unlucky, couldn't get the top, or you know, get another European top flight league or something. There is so much quality in that competition.
Yes. Yeah.
And there is a reason why the league is so big and they play so many games is for the English. That is the breeding ground of their talent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just look, there's so many examples of young English players going through that system. You know, Harry Kane had a run through League One and the Championship. I think he played for Leicester as old as maybe 18, 19, which is not, you know, dissimilar from where Nestory is at the moment. You know, look at just Joe Bellingham. You know, he's just gone over from the Championship into Borussia Dortmund. Like, there is so much opportunity there. It is such a high quality league, and it's just so much football being played, which means if he's considered as, you know, potentially almost a first teamer, well, then he's guaranteed. Like, even if you're a second teamer for a Championship club, you're going to get minutes throughout the season.
Yeah.
So high quality minutes. Popovic is going to value it. There's going to be so many benefits for the Socceroos. I think this is really encouraging. And as we said, if he really kicks on and Bayern really love him, then he can go back as well. So he's still got that route almost pre-planned for him if he's really successful to go straight back into a top 5 European league.
And the other thing that I haven't seen spoken too much about is that it's believed that Adelaide United have a sell-on clause attached to Nestory as well. I believe it was Lucas Ronaldo who was reporting that they're set to profit from this move as well, a few $100,000. So, you know, it's a tidy bit of business all round, it seems. And yeah, the fact that Adelaide are still reaping the rewards of a player who's been, you know, gone for a season now is it just goes to show how valuable those sorts of little add-ons on contracts can be in these deals.
Something's going right for the club at the moment.
Well, yes, it's a good segue into the next piece of transfer news that has come out of the club, which is, of course, that Zach Clough has left for Selangor in Malaysia. And I mean, the move from an Adelaide fan's perspective is bad enough. You're losing arguably one of the best number 10s in the league over the last couple of seasons. His output in the attacking third has been exemplary. I think it was 9 goals and 7 assists last season. Similar sort of numbers the season before. He's really kicked on and become a valuable player for the side. He's now gone. That's already not fantastic, but the worst part is he was under contract until the end of this season, and the club aren't getting a fee. They released him. It was a mutual termination. It just seems like, and you know, the next step now for Adelaide in terms of all this culmination of everything that's going on, and there's speculation thrown out that he's left because of things that happened towards the end of the season. How, you know, they're completely unsubstantiated rumours at this point in time, and it does seem like he loves the club. There's a great little video message he had where, you know, him and his partner and their child kicking the ball around on the Cooper Stadium pitch, and, you know, reminiscing on his time in Adelaide. And he said, as a lot of Adelaide players tend to say when they leave the club, he hopes that the door's open for a return. But, you know, it just seems like a crazy move from the club's perspective to lose one of the most talented players in the league and not get anything in return. It just, for all the good business the club has done with their transfers recently, this is one that really stands out as seemingly a pretty bad one.
Yeah, this is bad, I think, for Adelaide United. Unfortunately, because of all the noise around the club at the moment, you know, the finger's going to be pointed quite quickly at the background situation of the club as to a reason why he's leaving. He's an extremely valuable player. You talked about his stats. He's almost one of the template examples of the visa coming to Australia, struggling in year one, backed in by his club, and then really, really kicks on. He's been deployed in some different positions. He's had to play like out on the wing in certain moments, which really hasn't been his kind of kettle of fish, but he's made it work, and he's been extremely valuable to the club. So for him to still have 12 months left on his contract, I think they signed him. They re-signed him after maybe a handful of games like last season. So not the most recent season, the season before that. So he must have been on like okay financial terms for the club. This isn't a financial decision. It's a great personal move for him. I understand why he wanted to go to a really a powerful club in Asia, but, you know, a club that also has the money available. So if a mutual termination doesn't really spell positive things for me.
No, it's and for the fans as well, with everything that has gone on and over the last few years, and, you know, coaches begging for more investment from the owners and just seemingly very few transfers coming in. It just kind of feels like there's this growing apathy within the Adelaide fan base that it's just going to be another season of, you know, like maybe a couple of moments where it all looks like it's great, and then it's just going to fall apart again, and it's going to be a reliance on the kids and things like that. And I've had discussions with a few people about who kind of comes into Clough's role and things like that. And obviously Johnny Yull has been sort of the second in command to Clough in that role in recent seasons, but you've got some other promising players who can play kind of in that position as well. Ryan White, Harry Crawford come to mind. So it kind of depends on how Ayrton and Andreoli's going to set the team up. And part of me goes, well, okay, maybe if he sets the team up in such a way that there was no role for Clough anyway, it kind of, it softens that blow a little bit. But you can't help but feel like regardless, you're losing a player that, yes, Craig Goodwin's come in, but now he doesn't get to share the load, right? He's back to being the only output for the side. It just,
It's interesting you bring that up. I want to ask you a question. Where do you think Adelaide United fans think Adelaide will finish next season? Will they make finals? Will they not? Will they be lower down?
I think that there was a lot of positivity around the Craig Goodwin signing, and people were like, this is going to be the year it all comes together. Obviously, still need to address the defensive issues. That's no surprise. But, we've got the legends back. He's going to come home and win us some trophies and things like that. And now it's like, with everything that's come out, with the players that have left, there's rumours, of course, that Archie Goodwin will be headed to the MLS as well. Everybody's now kind of back on the whole pessimist train and the angle of, okay, this is going to be an extremely disappointing season. And there are a few that probably feel like they're not even going to get close to last season in terms of even making finals. It's a pretty downbeat at the moment here, because there just seems to be a lack of really quality experienced players in the side yet again. It feels like you're kind of on the precipice of something if you make the right moves, and the club's just not done that, and it's kind of fallen away from them again a little bit.
Yeah, and that's such a disappointing thing. And you bring up Craig Goodwin, and I think it's a really good point, is that there should be so much excitement about that. But because of everything else that is going on, you might lose Archie Goodwin overseas. Okay, you've got Jovanovic there as a little bit of a safety blanket, but your goalkeeper situation was frightful enough, and you've lost James Delianov to supposedly another A-League opportunity. By the way,
well, we know it's the Jets now. The Jets have announced it. Yes, he's headed to Newcastle.
Thank you for saying that, because I was just about to make a prediction about him going somewhere else. So, congratulations to the Jets. But the defensive situation still needs work. But you've got Craig Goodwin, and everything that's going on. You look at the teams around them; they were one of the worst teams in the second half of last season, and the other teams that kind of share that mantle. We're talking about the Jets. Actually, to be fair, they kind of strengthened towards the end of the year. But the Perth Glories of the world, the Mariners definitely down there with them. But Perth and Jets, they've both strengthened.
Yes,
and I don't think you can say that about Adelaide United overall either. So. I think this transfer is in the line of many that kind of spells a little bit of worry for Reds next season.
For sure. It's also kind of frustrating as well, because throughout last season, one of the least productive positions on the pitch for Adelaide was that left wing spot, where it was, Falami, Dakuli and Ayubi who were all sharing that role, and none of them really kind of kicked on to win favour with the coach and get that starting spot for the whole season. And it's like you're bringing Craig Goodwin back to address that issue, but now there's issues opening up elsewhere. And it's like you're papering over cracks, but they keep popping up more and more often, and you can't quite, address them in time. So it's a little bit frustrating, because it does kind of seem like, with even just foresight, you can see these things are going to happen with the lack of depth and experienced players in the team. And it's just years and years of failing to address these things, and it's all starting to come to a head now. So yeah, I think perhaps just symptomatic of the recruitment from the club over the last few years, to be honest, this Clough move. I want to touch on another important future Socceroos player. Well, he's also a current Socceroos player when he's fit and firing and ready to go. And that's Geordie Boss. And we've seen some stuff come out in recent days, potentially linking him to Feyenoord, Lockie, which that's a huge move if he can get that. If that comes off, I mean, we're talking about Watford being great for Irankunda. Feyenoord is, that is one of those top European leagues, a very, very well-respected club. That seems like a perfect match for not just a player of his caliber, but his age, his development. And, you know, we know that he's favoured in the Socceroos setup, that when he is fit, he will more likely than not be included and he'll get those starting minutes. But, you know, it's just another feather to add to his cap and the chance to develop even further in a really good league.
Yeah, well, maybe if Aziz Beige stopped scoring 90-minute bangers and qualified the nation for the World Cup, maybe he'd get a spot. No, this is really encouraging, and especially the fact that he's had 2 major injuries in the last 2 seasons. I think knee and a hamstring.
Yeah,
if my memory serves me correctly. So he's had a tough time of it, and yet he's still getting this kind of interest at 22 years old. So he's got clearly a lot of raw talent. And as you say, Feyenoord, an extremely well-respected club in the Netherlands and in Europe as a whole, and regularly plays European football, is out there playing with the big boys, and is probably in that window of a club that is that last step towards the big club, right? Is there much difference between playing for a Feyenoord compared to a low, like, European top 5 team? I'd argue not so much. In fact, the reputation is probably even higher unless you're talking Premier League. So really exciting for him. He's got his brother for competition as well in the national team setup.
You've just seen your brother head on off to the Bundesliga, and you're thinking, oh, I've got to take that next step now. You know,
exactly, and it's good. Like, one of the things that you know, people probably lose a little bit when they go overseas is that competition with Australians. Obviously, Europe is a different beast, and we've talked about that topic at length. And I remember Alessandro Ciccati, when we were talking to him, saying about, you know, how when you go to a country like Italy, if you've got like 10 left, if Jordy Boss has got 10 left backs in his age group in Australia to deal with, all of a sudden it's 1,000 in Italy, and the competition ramps up so much. But also when you bring it into the national team context, you kind of lose that, you know, close touch into who your competition is. So the fact that he's still got his brother, I'm sure they keep in touch regularly. And Casey played 45 minutes for Mainz in a preseason friendly the other day. Yep. So he's getting some minutes in the legs as well. It's going to be interesting to see, because by their positions, unless you wanted to play Boss on the wing, if we have some massive injury catastrophe, it's very hard to get both of them into the same lineup. So 2 brothers going at it.
The other thing to remember as well, or at least I believe, Jordy Boss has Dutch citizenship. So I'm not sure what the player registration rules are like in the Netherlands, but that could be a little bit of an advantage heading over there, as well as the clubs are more likely to take a gamble on somebody that's not going to, you know, cost them, you know, visa spots or anything, as we see in Australia all the time. So no, it's an extremely promising move, and you know, it's great to see these young Australian players now starting to get these moves to these clubs. We're always talking about, you know, the prospect of it happening, and now it's kind of coming to fruition a little bit, and you know, it's a very exciting time to be an Australian football fan. So you know, if he gets that move, best of luck to him, and yeah, I think it would be fantastic for him.